to try to be like sunflower.
Item 11. Ill will generate shadows. The shadows favor stagnancy. Stagnancy preserves evil. Evil enthrones uselessness. Uselessness creates discord. Discord awakens pride. Pride raises vanity. Vanity stirs up inferior passions. Inferior passions provoke lack of discipline. Lack of discipline maintains the harshness of the heart. Harshness of the heart imposes spiritual blindness. Spiritual blindness leads to the precipice. By involving himself in fruitless endeavors of incomprehension due to simple ill will, the individual can roll indefinitely toward the precipice of the shadows. Lord, Creator of all things, thank you once more for this opportunity that we have to be here at this center. Good spirits, please inspire our guest speaker so as he may pass on your teachings and help us soak in everything so we can take it in with us on our day to day. For those who cannot be here with us today, Lord, may they receive your blessings wherever they may be. Amen. Good evening, everyone. Today we have Frederico Gouveia speaking to us about music and the arts for our spiritual growth. Fred comes from the Inner Enlightenment Spirit Society of New York. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor to be here in the first time in Allan Kardec Spirit Society in Connecticut, talking about my favorite thing, music, which is a very easy topic to talk about, and that's technology. We're going to do a lecture today on music, but not talking about music so much as actually experiencing music. We're going to watch music, hear music, but I also will invite you to create music. And we're going to do this through visualizations to really experience what it is that makes music so powerful, so universally felt and understood, and how it can be used along with the other arts for our spiritual growth, as we understand it in Spiritism. So, to get us started, I want to share a little bit of this amazing film documentary, which I recommend for all of those that are maybe watching online to check it out. It's called Alive Inside. Have you guys seen this documentary? An amazing movie about the effects of music in patients with advanced stage dementia, Alzheimer's, and the fact that they are given an iPod that is customized with music from their childhood. So there's a foundation in the United States right now that is working with several nursing homes, care facilities, in order to provide these iPods to the families of the patients and get a curated playlist of pieces that the patients loved from their childhood. And they're measuring the impact that the music has not only during the time that they're listening to it, but they also notice how even several minutes afterwards, they recover their lucidity. They actually remember their family's names. They remember things about their childhood. They come back to a lucidity. It doesn't last forever. It's temporary. But there's discovering how deeply music gets registered in our brain as a result of this study. And the movie is really touching. So what I'm going to show you is a 6-minute trailer about it to get you motivated to check it out afterwards. So let me put it here. I'm going to put it on full screen. And
I have one resident that barely opened her eyes. She didn't respond. As much as I tried, I knew her for 2 years. No matter what I tried, massage wouldn't work, nothing worked. But when we got introduced to the iPods and the family told me the things that she liked, it was amazing once we put the iPod on her. She started shaking her feet. She started moving her head. Her son was just amazed. Okay, can we stop? Because now I'm getting all I'm seeing her all over again.
This gentleman's amazing.
Hi, Papa. Hi, Papa.
Huh?
How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm fine. Wait.
Who am I?
I don't know. Wait a minute.
That's his daughter. He doesn't know.
Okay, it's Cherry. How long has he been in the nursing home? Approximately 10 years. He was having seizures, and my mother couldn't handle him at home. Of course, it affected me greatly because he was always, fun-loving, singing, every occasion he would come out with a song, no matter where he was. I remember as a child, he used to walk us down the street, me and my brother, and he would stop and do Singing in the Rain. He would have us jumping and swinging around poles. He was, he was good. He was always into music, always loved singing, dancing.
His name is Henry Drea.
Uh-huh.
And I'm looking more or less for religious music for him.
Okay.
Because he enjoys music and he always quoting the Bible. So I'd rather have that for him.
We first see Henry inert, maybe depressed, unresponsive, and almost unalive.
Henry,
Yeah.
Henry,
Yes, sir.
I found your music. You want your music now?
What do you want me?
Let's try your music, okay? And then you tell me if it's too loud or not.
Then he is given an iPod containing, we know, his favorite music. And immediately he lights up. His face assumes expression. His eyes open wide. He starts to sing and to rock and to move his arms, and he's being animated by the music.
And he used to always sit on the unit with his head like this. He didn't really talk to much people. And then when I introduced the music to him, this is his reaction ever since.
The philosopher Kant once called music the quickening art, and Henry is being quickened. He's being brought to life.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the music for 1 second, okay? Just to ask you a few questions. Okay? I'm going to give it back to you. Okay.
The effect of this doesn't stop, because when the headphones are taken off, Henry, normally mute and virtually unable to answer the simplest yes or no questions, is quite voluble.
Henry,
Yeah.
do you like the iPod? Do you like the music you're hearing?
Yes.
Tell me about your music.
Well, I don't have none. I mean,
Do you like music?
yeah, I'm crazy about music. You play beautiful music, beautiful sound, beautiful.
Did you play music when you were? Did you like music when you were young?
Yes, I went to big dances and things.
What was your favorite music when you were young?
I guess, Cab Calloway was my number one band guy. I like. That is the holy, the holly, the hilly, the holy, the merry, the holly, the ah.
What's your favorite Cab Calloway song?
Oh, I'll be home there for Christmas. Oh, you can count and plan on me with plenty of snow, mistletoe, present, wrapped around your tree. Ow!
So in some sense, Henry is restored to himself. He has remembered who he is, and he's reacquired his identity for a while through the power of music.
What does music do to you?
Give me the feeling of love. No man. Figure right now the world need to come into music, singing. You got beautiful music here. Beautiful, oh lovely. And I feel the band of love, the dream. Lord came to me, made me holy. I'm a holy man. So he gave me this sound. So they say, I meet you. Let me see. Rosalie, won't you love me? Rosalie, won't you be sweet and kind?
With this beautiful new technology, you can have all the music which is significant for you in something as big as a matchbox or whatever. And I think this may be very, very important in helping to animate, organize, and bring a sense of identity back to people who are out of it. Otherwise, music will bring them back into it, into their own personhood, their own memories, their own autobiographies.
Cool, right? It's amazing how he comes alive inside, literally. And this documentary has so many other examples of people and their reaction once they start talking about music. So clearly, when we study Spiritism, we see in Kardec, the Spirits ask in the Spirits book, are the spirits sensitive to music? And the spirits answer, do you mean your music on the earth? What is that compared to the celestial harmonies, which the human imagination can even begin to conceive? So the answer of the spirits leaves us with a taste of, oh my God, it must be so extraordinary that we can't even begin to understand. And the spirit of Rossini, who was an Italian composer, in the Spiritist Review of 1863, he says that as a conductor, as a maestro that he was, how he was barely a parrot of repeating in a very dim way the inspiration he got from the spirit world, from the melodies. And he says, whenever we don't mess up too much, they applaud. But most of the time we mess it up so much. And his frustration is shared by all the major composers like Vivaldi, Stravinsky, Mahler, Bach, many of whom received their most inspired melodies in dreams. Vivaldi has very funny stories. He was a priest in Venice, Italy, and he was in charge of an orphanage of girls called Ospitale della Pietà. It was basically girls that were born out of wedlock by the wealthy families, and they could not assume the children, so they would be taken to this hospital. And Vivaldi was one of the teachers in charge and a priest. And all the concertos that he composed, over 600 of them, like the Four Seasons and everything, was meant for these girls to perform. And he was also a priest on Sunday Mass. And many times the followers in the church that were following the Mass that he was celebrating, the Eucharist and the Gospel, all of a sudden Vivaldi would just run out and stay out back there 10, 15, 20 minutes because a melody was coming to him. He would just leave everyone there, run to write it down, and then come back like nothing had happened. And other composers are known to have done the same thing. Mahler, for example, would just retreat into a house by the lake, and he would give express orders, don't interrupt me, for days. He wouldn't even eat. And sometimes he said his fierce, accelerated pace of writing the music was so intense that he said, I don't choose what to compose. It chooses me. So we see that mediumship and music abilities definitely have an influence. So every artist is a medium. Every individual incarnated on this planet is also a medium. Therefore, all of us are artists as well. And that's one of the things that I would like to leave you with tonight, friends, that there's no such thing as artists and everybody else. We are all artists. We all have the divine potential, creative ability inside. We just need to nourish it like every other virtue. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is how do we do that? And how do we make sure that we develop that just like we develop our prayer, meditation, our studies of the books, and our charitable practices, and our daily good habits that allows us to be better spiritists every day? How can we incorporate practicing art into it? Not just listening to it or seeing it, right? Not just consuming third-party art, but creating art ourselves. So, with that, we're going to start, before we go to Beethoven, to create in your mind, through a visualization of music, we're going to create. And then I'm going to invite you, after we create, to share your creations if you wish, by speaking it to us. This is part of a visualization, just like a therapeutic visualization, a healing visualization, kind of like a guided meditation. I'm going to do it as well. What I'll do is I'll take the violin, and I invite you guys that are watching us online to do the same. Go into like a state of prayer and meditation, of inner quiet, and use your breathing. So that in the first part of the music, what we're going to do is like a cleansing. Just the same way we receive passes, a transmission of healing energies, just like we take a shower every day, hopefully. We do the same thing. We're going to do that with the music. So the first part, I'm going to invite you to think of a current problem you have right now with somebody, or a situation you're going through, a challenge that's bothering you, something that's causing your heart some ache. And as we close our eyes, I want you to sit with that and be with that for a while. And as you hear the music playing, focus on your breathing and let the sounds of the music clean you. As you breathe out, pretend that this is getting washed out. As you breathe out, it's like these concerns are getting diluted. That's going to be the first part. And I want you to notice that in this first part, the music is going to sound one way. And in the second part, after we've been cleansed, after we've been sort of purified, our vessel is more clean and more relaxed, I'm going to invite you to let your imagination take you. Let the music take you to a place. So if you see things, I don't want to say anything to suggest anything. You let your mind take you, and then we'll share afterwards. How's that? If you wish to share. Won't last more than 5 minutes. Yeah? Okay. Marcia, can I ask you to turn off the lights, please? Thank you. So I'm going to do it as well. I'm going to think of something that's currently preoccupying me, and I'm going to do the prayer, the visualization and the breathing as much as possible while I play. And then the second part, once it's cleaned out, we're going to let our minds take us somewhere by the power of the music. Yep. Close your eyes, relax. Think of that concern, that situation, that person, that circumstance that's bothering you right now. Use your breathing to slowly get rid of it. Slowly come back. Slowly, whenever you're ready, open your eyes. Settle back into your body. Feel your feet on the floor. Restore a regular breathing. And whenever we're ready, we can get the lights back on. Let there be light. Anyone like to share?
I can share.
Ciao.
Well, what I was thinking of was because I'm going through a career change, so obviously there's a lot of insecurities that go with it because it's completely different than what it was before. I was in accounting for about 12 years, and now I'm switching to be a nurse.
Wow.
And so obviously you're actually dealing with people's lives now, so you don't want to make mistakes. And as this song played, it took me to a patient I had this past semester at the hospital, which I was completely scared to be assigned him every time he happened to be on the floor because of his condition. He had a lot of seizures. He had, all his meds were done through tubes and everything. And one day I did get assigned him, and I was really scared. I was like, oh my God, am I going to be able to do anything if a seizure happens? And for my luck, as soon as I walk in the room with the professor, what happens? He has a seizure. So I ended up I was assigned to him 3 times, and one of the days I happened to be there with two other people that were healthcare workers in the hospital, and they were having a conversation that was really bothering me because it was like the patient wasn't even there. And so in my mind, I started, I said a prayer. And he was blind too, on top of all the issues. But I'm certain that he felt it because he looked right at me, even though I was silent, I wasn't talking. He didn't know where in the room I was. And from that moment forward, I was so much more comfortable with being around him and taking care of him and everything. And the music just, brought me there to, I guess, kind of show me, even though there are insecurities, there's still good things that can come from,
Nice.
the new challenge.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else would like to share?
The first part, the breathing. At first I couldn't focus on breathing because I was paying attention to vibrations.
Of course, as a musician.
It's so beautiful that I couldn't stop paying attention. And but I did it in the end. And the visualization, I let me go kind of above like a field, like a grassy field. And in the middle of the field, there was a white gazebo where you were playing.
Oh, really?
And I said, okay, I'll go there to see why is that. And then I went there, and I started watching. And suddenly I said, I'm alone here. Why am I thinking about this thing? I felt like there's no purpose in this. And then suddenly I felt like they are bringing like spirits in need to watch the music. So there's 2 types of spirits, so the helpers and the ones in need. And they sat down around like a semicircle, and they start watching and they start smiling with the song.
Wow.
So and then the last part when we did this very high note was very powerful for us. Nice.
Wow, how beautiful. Thank you. Wow. See the power of our minds with the music? Would you like to share, my friend?
Thank you.
You're good? Okay. Anyone else? Priscilla? Or don't be shy. Okay.
Not so special.
All right. If you change your mind, Mart?
Just want to point out one thing. When you introduced the exercise and you said you're going to think about something, I immediately thought that I would be thinking about you. But as the music was going, my mind was always in the waterfall.
Waterfall.
And then it was almost like not fighting, but anyway, almost thinking about a field, and now I'm feeling like I'm in a waterfall. And I keep going like back to the waterfall, and so the music was pushing me to a different scenario that I thought initially.
Wow. Nice. Beautiful, right? So it really,
I think I want to share a
please.
part of it. I'm not comfortable sharing all of it.
No problem, as much as you're comfortable.
But there was a lot of closing doors, smaller doors, sliding doors, and the high note that you're playing. It was I just felt something like physical. It was a good feeling, but I felt something like in the skin, like something a good feeling, but I can't explain it all.
Okay, thank you. So it's actually the first time I attempt this exercise in a spiritist center, so I'm really happy to get your feedback because it just reaffirms the power of the vibrations, because musical notes are sound frequencies, and we know how sound frequencies affect our molecules. They have studies that show how the water molecules get very symmetrical and beautiful when they're exposed to harmonious music or prayers, and when they get distorted when they're exposed to the opposite, right? So the intention here is to be of service, is to grow. The support of the spirit of doctors, nurses, the benefactors of this house, magnify that, right? And so the violin itself as an instrument has that quality of being very harmonious and melodic when it's in tune, if the player is able to play it in tune, which happens very rarely. So all of that combination generates like a pass, like a very powerful pass. And it's just amazing to see when we study the books by Leon Denis, especially Spiritism in the Arts, we see how in the spirit realm, the dialogue that happens amongst spirits is through music. It's through thoughts that carry melody, thoughts that carry colors, thoughts that carry sounds and other qualities that our senses don't even understand because we're incarnated in this limited sensory three-dimensional world, right? So we can only imagine what it is that we feel and how many spirits are healed and are taken to treatment. And when we read, for example, the books by André Luiz in Nosso Lar, the first one he wrote, he says that in every department of Nosso Lar, they started putting music because they realized that people would just work more efficiently, they work with more quality. So all of those things as a result of music. So one thing that for me is also a characteristic that we can extract from music and arts in general is the ability to ignite us, to propel us, to give us more courage, to get us more passionate, to give us more joy, right? And when we look in the books in the Spiritist Review, there's a passage. I highlighted this word here, sacred fire, because this is a commonly used phrase in many parts of the gospel, in the Spiritist Review, and other books in the Spiritist literature to describe our creative potentiality, right? Jesus said to the apostles and the crowd, "You are gods." That's us, right? We have co-creative abilities that are infinite in their potentiality, right? He wouldn't have said so if it wasn't true. And part of our creative potential involves connecting ourselves with this energy, which they call it the sacred fire, which comes from our lower chakras. And when a musician or an artist, when anyone is going through tremendous inspiration, they report that their body warms up. It's like a volcanic eruption rushes from within, and they're able to express outwardly. In mediumistic meetings, for example, we notice how when spirits are being rescued and a loved one, usually a mother, 9 times out of 10, it's a mother that approaches the spirit that is in need, the mediums and even the counselors report that they feel this warmth rushing, which is coming from the love that the spirit is emanating. So there's something to be said here. And this is a passage from the Gospel According to Spiritism by the spirit François Fenelon, and he says that love is a magnet that the human heart cannot resist, and contact with love enlivens and fertilizes the seeds of the virtue that lies latent within it. As a dwelling place of trial and exile, the earth will then be purified by that sacred fire, and will see the practice of charity, humility, patience, devotion, self-denial, resignation, and sacrifice. All virtues that are the offspring of love. So we see that there is a propelling motion forward. Like when we use the word love, sometimes I get a little annoyed, honestly, because for me it's such an abstract term. Love. But when you talk about kindness, peace, when you talk about tenderness, it starts to become a little more concrete, right? And the notion of joy is something that's crucial in our expressing our arts, expressing our artistic creations. And that's something that I put for us to watch the last 10 minutes, if we have to, the last 10 minutes of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, who I'm sure you've all heard before, but I guarantee you that all of you, if not most of you, have never had the chance to actually watch Beethoven's Ninth Symphony with the subtitles in English of what it is that they're singing about, right? We hear the music, oh, that's a nice melody, wow, it's very big and stuff, but what are they singing about? They're delivering an extremely spiritualized message. And it's one of the reasons why the Ninth Symphony became so famous. Not only because Beethoven, as a medium, composed this work when he was completely deaf. At the end of his life, he had no more hearing. So we can see that it was divinely inspired. He was a medium, ostensibly. And this is, the message itself is a hymn celebrating joy. This faculty, this virtue that we can all have, joy. And I really connect this notion of joy with this sacred fire, with whatever warms up our community. When Jesus says to the disciples, don't shun the little children. Remember when the disciples by the lake were with Jesus and they start to tell the kids to stop fooling around? And he's like, no, don't do that. Let the little children come to me. So he's saying, let us all have that spontaneity, that simplicity, that liveliness of heart, that joy, which is that magnet that ignites all of these qualities within us. Let's act more like those children. And the music is able to connect us with that more. So I want us to see the last 10 minutes or so of this amazing performance that takes place in the Royal Albert Hall in London. And the orchestra is comprised of young musicians from Israel and Palestine, playing side by side, and also the chorus by members of the UK chorus. And some of the ideas that the music talks about are this. And we can see that this is like a spiritist lecture inside Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It's quite powerful. So we're going to listen. As we listen to it, I want you to see if you also are taken somewhere, or if you, in your imagination, you see something or feel something or experience something that later we can share. Yeah? Any questions? All right. Just have to switch here to this. I'm going to ask my friend Marcio to please get the lights again. Thank you. Full screen. Where's the full screen? Enter full screen. Here we go. So it's going to be right. So we're going to start a part that at the time that the music was premiered in Austria, Beethoven wanted to conduct it. So they basically put him there to conduct, and they had a real conductor conduct next to him because he was completely deaf. But they, out of respect and honor, they put him there on the stage. And it's very beautiful because at the end, he was still waving his hands. The entire audience burst into this ecstatic applause. And because they knew he was deaf, they all brought white handkerchiefs. So the conductor gently turned Beethoven, and he saw thousands of people in the audience waving enthusiastically the handkerchief in recognition for this historic moment, one of the most inspired pieces of music we have on planet Earth today. So here we go, the last 14 minutes or so. And I'll make a few comments during it. I asked Beethoven to forgive me, but just so we can contextualize a little bit the music.
seine Sonnen fliegen hoch wie seine Sonnen fliegen durch des Himmels rechten Rad. Laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn, laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn, freudig, wie ein Held zum Siegen, wie ein Held zum Siegen, laufet, Brüder, eure Bahn.
Encouraging us to overcome. Now this is just instruments, and it's one of the most genius writings for orchestra. It's very complex. A struggle. Play a major chord, happy. Now the same chord, minor, sad. And now the apotheosis that everybody knows. Challenges the audience to think about God and God's existence and the consolation. musical chord of mystery, of uncertain, of question. Like the last time the four singers are going to sing, so they do like the little finale, and then the orchestra comes to end the music. Thank you.
Did he write the lyrics too?
No, Friedrich Schiller was the poet, a very famous German poet at the time. He wrote the lyrics, and so.
What partner or?
No, he got inspired by reading by his poetry and then put it in the music. Yeah, they didn't collaborate on it. It's nice, right? It's a powerful message, right? This is being embraced. The kiss for the world is this coming from joy, from the Creator, right? Any thoughts you'd like to share?
I felt like this music is on Earth and so far from our average understanding. Imagine the where did it came from?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Imagine how the musicals are over there.
Imagine how it sounds over there.
Right.
Yeah.
have no idea.
Yeah, and the composers say that too. Chopin, through Ivone Amaral Pereira, says that too, that he is not very happy with the output that he composed on Earth, because it's almost like you have a high definition, high bandwidth frequency, and then you need to download it onto a really old black and white computer. And it's like not going to be the same. It's not going to deliver the same resolution, the same vivid, colors. So, but that's what we've got today. And and Rossini says, and this is a very important point in the Spiritist Review, as we dematerialize ourselves through our intellectual and moral growth, music also helps us in the process to dematerialize our whole body, the whole planet. So, divinely inspired art, whatever it is, poetry, painting, but especially music, because Leon Denis and the spirits of the aesthete say that music incorporates all three dimensions of the language of the Creator, so to speak, for our senses. So the way they describe in the book Spiritism in the Arts is that he says poetry is one layer, so the written text. So I read a piece of poem, the minute that I verbalize it with eloquence, not just verbalize it reading, but I verbalize it with passion, with all this joy, with all the feeling, I add a second layer to it. The poetry that was written, and I add a verbal layer of sound that makes it, that touches people, that carries, like a prayer, carries an effect. When I add a third layer of it, melody, harmony, then I make it even more intense. And it communicates more information through the sounds. It's something that is beyond our understanding now, what the music actually expresses if we were to codify it, right? I don't think there's the machinery available for it, but it expresses emotions. No matter what language, what background somebody's from, you play a piece of music, people feel the same reaction. They feel the similar emotions, right? So there is information that's being transmitted. We just can't decode it with our physical brains for now. But on a certain level of our spirits, it gets registered, right? So I put this slide here because just like the Elysium that you see written in the Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Elysium is the heavenly place of arrival of the heroes. Once they finish their journey victoriously, they would arrive in Elysium, which is this place of rest and joy and beauty. This is something for us to think about regarding our own reincarnation and our pilgrimage on planet Earth as incarnate spirits. The passage in the Old Testament of the Hebrew people being rescued from Egypt through miracles and God that intervenes in order to rescue the people from captivity of the slavery in Egypt. They then are going to the promised land, right? But do you guys remember how that passage goes? They spend how long in the desert? 40 years they spend in the desert. And what happens? That generation that left Egypt doesn't even make it to the promised land. They die before they get there with Moses. So this is a symbolic understanding for us too, that when we reincarnate, we are given the chance to leave the captivity of our regrets, of our feelings, of the things we know that in the past we made mistakes, and we come here to atone for, to expiate, to improve. It's like we're getting liberated from this Egypt, because we read in the Spiritist literature that one of the things that the spirits desire the most to reincarnate is so they have the blessing of forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of the past is a blessing, right? So once they are here, they enter the desert. We all enter the desert. We are in a desert of spirituality. This is why we come to a center here. The desert is a symbol, right? Because our senses of the flesh can't perceive all the guardian angels, all the mentors, all the love in the spirit world that's present here. We can't. And even the mediums, they have moments of mediumship. They're not full-time, perceiving. So it's like a desert of spirituality. Now, it's up to us to reach the Elysium, the promised land, if we fulfill our reincarnatory plan that we agreed to fulfill before coming here, right? And we know in the book Vote by Brother Jacob that they call the spirits that return to the spirit realm, having achieved their mission, having accomplished their missions, they call them completists. They completed 100% of their reincarnatory plan. But just like a school, we get A's or B's or C's, we pass some subjects, we fail other subjects. So we return to the spirit realm with a settlement to account for. So I think part of music, not only our studies in Spiritism, but getting involved with practicing music, arts, whatever it is that makes you attracted to it, if it's poetry, if it's painting, practice that, because this is a sense that we all carry within ourselves that helps us to beautify life, that helps us to alleviate our pains and helps us to heal in the process. And it's we were talking on the way here, my mom and I, that we don't often do that because it's not something that's going to bring us money. We're not going to pay our bills because of that. It's not a very practical endeavor, right? Because who has time for that? But we got to make time for that. The same way we make time to do our gospel at home, the same way that we make time to come to the center and do all the important things to maintain our spirit, let's find time to connect with our inner artist, whatever that may be for you. Find that time. Dedicate those moments, because it's like a meditation. It really helps us to feel joy, sets us free to do that, to really connect with our creative potentialities. So I'll just briefly mention some, because it's already 8 o'clock. These divinely inspired paintings by Akiane. Do you know Akiane, friends? She's another example of the fact that we are already marching into the world of regeneration. There are so many evolved spirits in our midst already. Bringing these, look, can you get the lights for a second, Marcy, please? Look at the colors that she paints. This is a girl in her 20s that she started painting when she was 6 years old. And all her paintings have a spiritual message. Look at this. And she likes to go to sleep and she dreams about it, and then she wakes up and paints it. Look at this garden. I don't know if that's something you see when you hear the music, but when we go to sleep, hopefully, when we pray before we go to bed and set our intentions to be of service during our hours of physical sleep, hopefully we get to go to places like this in the spirit realm, right? Look at this. There's healing being transmitted in these colors, right, friends? This is Christ. And amazingly enough, this painting was seen by a young boy who actually had, I think it was meningitis that he had. He was in a coma, and he had some out-of-body experiences during that state, where he saw his grandfather, where he was in spirit outside his body, and then he returns and he tells the story to his dad, and his dad writes a book called Heaven is for Real, which became a movie, and it was a bestseller. It still is, has been translated to almost every language. And his father, because he was a Protestant pastor, had photos of Jesus, and the kid never really connected with those photos. But one day they were watching TV, and there was a story on CNN of Akiane, and they showed this painting, and he said, "Oh, that's the man I saw. That's the Jesus I saw." It's powerful, right? Really beautiful. Doesn't look like the stereotypical Jesus that we're used to seeing, right? So I'm going to fast forward because I clearly got very excited and carried away and planned way too much in more than an hour here. So this is Leon Denis describing the parties in the spirit world, the celebrations of music, and how the communion of sounds and music happens with millions there. I'm going to give you a very brief story about this lovely couple, Geraldo Coura and Ibis Coura, who are an inspiration to me for music and charity. They live today in Orlando, Florida, but I met him 15 years ago in Miami, where I used to live there. This is a man who's been a spiritist with his wife since he was 18 years old, and he ended up in a spiritist center because he was extremely obsessed, and he was channeling spirits in the middle of the street, very heavy spirits. And this lovely lady's mother was a director of a spiritist center and invited him to go. His wife invited him to go. So he went and he started to discover spiritism, develop his mediumship. And he has helped to establish, during the time that they lived in Brazil, over 50 spiritist centers in Rio, in Minas Gerais, in São Luís do Maranhão, all over the state of Maranhão. And in the process, not only established spiritist centers, but he helped to create a lot of charitable schools for people with leprosy, schools for people that are orphans, and they still exist to this day. And he always used music as a way to connect with the patients and with the people he was serving in the community. And this was a lovely caricature that a friend of theirs created on the occasion of their 50th wedding anniversary. They're still married to this day. I had the honor of being down there 3 weeks ago to celebrate my birthday, and I spent it in their place. And he's a treasure chest of stories because he had a chance to work with Chico Xavier and with many mediums all over the place. And I wish I could just record him, because he tells stories like a good Mineiro, guy from Minas Gerais. He just tells these long stories that you just get captivated by. And he helped to create this movement called Caravan of Love, which he started in the 70s in these centers and leprosy schools in the Northeast, and it spread. And in Florida, it's really taken off. They have, what is a Caravan of Love? It's just a name given to a visit to a hospital, a visit to a nursing home with music. Now, you don't have to be a musician to do it, and that's where I'd like to invite you to do this here if you have a chance to serve the community. But this is a 2-minute video that shows a visit in the hospital that I was there, of them playing for the patients in the nursing home. And all of these are volunteers that you see on the video. And that's okay. Let's try that again. Play. I guess I didn't embed the video right. But I think I have it here. Sorry guys. I think I'm gonna have to leave. Oh, here. Okay, it's not working. In any case, I will fast forward to the next step. My point about showing you this video is that music and the arts can be very effective tools to use with charitable works with the community. According to Jesus, in the answer that he gives in the Spirits book, Kardec asks the spirits, what is charity as it was understood by Jesus, right? And there's the abbreviation, BIF, that I like to call, that I learned from Daniel Assis, BIF. Benevolence towards others, indulgence towards their faults, and forgiveness to offenses, right? This is an inner charity, something we work within ourselves every day, right? But then there's the external charity, taking these feelings that we work on and service the community. So every spirit is centered that is actively involved in the community that they're in receives a lot of spiritual support. We know that for a fact, right? So if we have a talented musician here in the house, maybe that could be an invitation to continue doing this kind of work in the community, right? And unfortunately the video is not working, but I'm just here to make this invitation that any help that you guys need, if you feel inclined to start a work in your local hospital, nursing home, all you got to do is call them and say we'd like to come in as volunteers and visit the patients. And they are so willing and able and welcoming all the time. And we feel that we're going to be going to deliver and give them something. We end up receiving so much more because they're so gracious and happy that we're there giving them some attention. And with the help of the music, it just fosters that joyful environment. So since we're talking so much about music, why don't we close with a song that our friend Beto created, which will be performed today, right now, the world premiere that he composed for tomorrow's event that's going to be happening here the whole week in the Educators Workshop. So it is our intention that as we play this, it's already asking the spirit benefactors to generate the positive vibrations to continue to send it to tomorrow and Sunday's event. That's our intention, yeah? Any questions? Hey guys, ready to sing? Okay, now I figured this out here. Beto, please come up and share your beautiful voice with us.
After Beethoven?
After Beethoven. But you know where you have the advantage? You're here live.
At least.
Flesh and bones. It carries a much more powerful effect.
I'll be alive in the end of the song.
Alright, I'll put the lyrics so you guys can see. And I'll get us started. And I'm going to accompany Beto in the violin.
I think you should put them on the microphone to hear me, if they can hear you play too.
Yes.
So please play.
Okay.
It's funny how you always tell me what to do. I thank you for that. I know you care, but what I need most from you is to give me a little piece of Jesus, and I'll give you back peace. Seeing through the eyes of Jesus, I can succeed. So please remind me what I came here to accomplish, and that I am another spirit in this little body. Cause I've got a chance to heal my past. I will hold on tight and do my best, but my life depends on what I learn from you. Why don't you try to be like sunflowers, drawing from sunny days the strength and power, so like them you can recharge my heart on cloudy days, until I be able to do on my own. Why don't you try to be like some flowers, drawing from sunny days with strength and power, so like them you can recharge my heart on cloudy days, until I can go on my own. accomplish, and that I am another spirit in this little body. 'Cause I've got a chance to heal my past, and I hold on tight and do my best. But my life depends on what I learn from you. Why don't you? Why don't you try to be like some flowers, drawing from sunny days the strength and power, so like them you can recharge my heart on cloudy days, until I can go on my own. Why don't you try to be like some flowers, drawing from sunny days the strength and power, so like them you can recharge my heart on cloudy days. But what I need most from you is to give me a little piece of Jesus, and I'll give you back peace. Seeing through the eyes of Jesus, I can succeed.
World premiere! This is the man. Thank you guys for your. I knew it was gonna happen. Sorry about that. iTunes. Okay. Who's going to do the closing prayer for us? Come on, darling. Would you like to? All right, you love the enthusiasm.